You found your person. Now let The Knot help you with everything else. The Knot connects you to the wedding inspo, vendors, venues, and planning tools you need to make your day totally you. Having helped plan 25 million weddings, we've got your back when it comes to every little detail like RSVPs, budgets, and more. Because your wedding comes to life with the connections that matter the most. Get started at theknot.com/audio. The Knot. Let's plan your wedding together.
Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast is now on YouTube. Go on YouTube and search Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast and click that subscribe button to never miss an episode. Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. I am one of your hosts today, Mr. Wrestling Chris G, and on the other line with me, he's the doctor in the waiting room. It's good old Dougie Fresh. Dougie, man, how you doing?
I don't know if I like that doctor very much. I got some vibes off of that dude, and I didn't really appreciate his old get up. I didn't.
Yeah, me and you, I'm sure, have a lot to say about that doctor. But hey, Doug, it's not just us this week. It's the month of guests, as me and you was talking off air. But we have one of the biggest guests that we've had on the show so far, and I'd like to introduce Mr. Jason Paige, the original singer to Pokemon. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Gotta catch 'em all, Jason Paige. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Every Pokemon ever, Jason Paige here from good old United States of America, Denver, Colorado, joining you right now. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on onto our show.
We can end the episode now, right? I mean, that's it. I mean, we're not gonna get. I mean, wow. So Jason, as I stated, like when I was introducing you, you are the voice of a generation. Like you are the voice that I heard every morning as a child. Started the whole Pokemon phenomenon. Like you are the guy. You are the
tip of the spear, so to speak.
Yes.
The tip of the spear that punctured the universe with Pokemon. Well, actually, the tip of the spear was the card game, and whoever created the card game when they first drew the first Pikachu. That was the real tip of the spear. But I am the tip of the English spear, the rock and roll spear, the advertising spear, the spear that is thrown into the bullseye of hearts and minds and souls of a generation, as you said. Yes, the song started out the animated special, Gotta Catch 'Em All, Pokemon, which I voiced. Actually, let me see if that's the right key. Yes. Gotta catch 'em all, Pokemon. It's actually a little higher. This song just seems to get higher and higher every year. I don't know how that happens. No. As we age, our voices sometimes don't stretch as high as they did when we were but a mere 28 years old, and now I'm 52, and sometimes I go, wow, that's really high. I want to be the very best, like no one ever was. To catch them is my real test. To train them is my cause. Oh, that is awesome.
I've got goosebumps.
Anyway, that's yes, that's who I am. I was the tip of the spear for that TV show's theme song, and that spear punctured the hearts, minds, and souls of a generation. And then you guys are the weight of the spear that really carries this spear through the past 25 years. I'm really it's your enthusiasm and your imagination that pushes this spear forward. The Pokemon sort of product from the company is really minimal compared to the product from the individuals that create all of these residual value. Like I said, you guys are creating more value in the ecosystem. So thank you for having me on and
you're very
creating
welcome.
value in the world.
You're very welcome. And I have to say, so because we did research on it, so we know everything with you that kind of goes far past just Pokemon. But I do want to ask you, how did this all line up for you? How did you get picked to be the voice that was on the theme song for Pokemon? Can you kind of walk us through how that kind of happened for you?
Yeah. I am a vocal session singer. I call myself now a vocal gymnast and a vocal acrobat. And I was hired by the company that produced the Pokemon theme song for other jingles and other products and things that I had sung for them before. Now, when you do a jingle for a music house, you're basically a paid audition. So it's a couple $100 or whatever their session fees are at the time to sing the demo, and the demo gets put forth to the client, and the client decides whether they like it or not. But the musicians are all paid generally by the jingle house that is producing that audition for the client. So the client in this case was 4 kids. They hired the music house, and the music house hired me, and we sort of do it with the hopes that it goes further. And it did go further. I don't think they used any other singers on it and tested any other singers. They just kind of knew that they wanted it to sound like a 12 to 15-year-old rock kid. And that is a voice that I could do because I had done other things for them that were in that same kind of high energy rock mode, like Domino's Pizza Delivers. So, then we just moved on to Pokemon. That's pretty much how jobs are received in the jingle world. Okay. They could have had other jingle houses working on the same thing at the same time, but this was just one company that was working on it. So there was an audition between many people for the gig.
Okay. And Pokemon wasn't really perceived, or it wasn't as popular as it ended up becoming right at the beginning for this. So when you first did your jingle, did you anticipate it kind of blowing up the way that it did?
Well, in 1996, I did Lego Mania, Lego Mania. Lego's got a lot that's new for the maniac in you. You'll feel the power, you'll feel. Once you feel the feeling, build Lego Mania, Lego Mania. So that jingle went on 6 or 7 different commercials. Every year, different Lego toys would put that little hook on it. So at that point, I understood what a successful jingle was and what we wanted to happen, and went in there to hit the ball out of the park, grand slam, like I try to do with any particular event that I involve myself in. Just like this event right here, this is a grand slam, hit it out of the park interview for you guys and your podcast. And I'm hoping that this thing is seen around the world by hundreds of billions of people.
Oh, so, thank you.
That's, hundreds of billions. We don't even have hundreds of billions of people on the planet. That's kind of silly. But, for all eternity, this is, we want everything that we do to be done with as much courage will pull us through, or heart and soul as we can. So the answer basically is yes, I expect everything to be as brilliant and beautiful and magical as Pokemon turned out to be. But it far exceeded my imaginations and my expectations of that Grand Slam. The Grand Slam I was thinking of was it went on TV and I got paid for residuals for all the products that it went on, like Legomania. But this went way, way, way further than that into this 25-year ecosystem of value that individuals create out of their imaginations, enthusiasm for Pokemon. So far exceeded my imagination, and my imagination at the time was already quite robust.
I could not have given a better answer, Doug. I'm gonna hand this ball over to you.
Yeah, let me pick my jaw up off the floor. I want to double check before we go any further. You are recording, right? Like this
Yes,
isn't.
yes.
This is phenomenal. We haven't even gotten into anything. So because obviously, you've had, quite a robust career. I mean, we could easily turn this into the Jason Paige Wikipedia hour, and we'd be perfectly fine. But obviously, you have this wonderful situation that became, 25 years of Pokemon. You're never out of it, obviously, because anytime anybody hits play on an episode, your voice is the first thing that they're going to hear. So how does that feel to be part of something that has exploded in, because you've got video games, you've got, merchandise out the yin yang, you've obviously the card game, the cards are experiencing a renaissance now. How does that feel to even just be a part of that? I mean, one could argue a big part, but a part nonetheless.
Well, the feeling is moment to moment, and if I had to put it into one word, I would say gratitude. Although that's not it's a feeling, but it's also an active sort of emotion, a thought process of thinking about how things unfold, and that gratitude is something I think is just an important feeling that we have for anything that we look at. I'm looking at a building across the street. Somebody put this building up. It's 48, 50 stories high, and the engineering and design that went into it, the workmanship, the science, the history to put this building up is a miracle. And I can have profound gratitude for that. And Pokemon is kind of the largest intellectual property building that exists in history at this point, also dwarfing even Star Wars, that had more time to go. So it's a human achievement, collective human achievement, and at the same time, the achievement of the imagination of individuals. So you got all these individuals throwing their ideas in, making a podcast, making some independent art, making some independent music, making some YouTube channel, making some live event, making some technology to make an app like Pokemon Go. That's an individual that had nothing to do with Pokemon that eventually got to Niantic and made the Pokemon Go app, and partnered with the imaginations of Pokemon, and then to tap into the imaginations of billions of people that had grown up on Pokemon. So all these individuals make this collective giant skyscraper in the sky that is Pokemon. And it's I have gratitude for all of the individuals that made that happen. Because these are miracles of man's imagination when it's empowered and when it's self-empowered, and the enthusiasm comes from the individual, not from the marketing. Even though I was a part of the marketing, it wasn't really marketing. It was sort of like just laying out the credo of Pokemon, the 10 commandments of Pokemon, like I say sometimes. I'm Moses coming down the mountains with the tablets, telling everybody to be the very best like no one ever was. And, so there's some marketing involved, but it's beyond marketing. It's the individuals marketing themselves as individuals with all the great things that they do to make this giant skyscraper and that dwarfs all others. That is the Pokemon skyscraper of reality. All right, how about that for an answer?
All of your answers are just like I like the way how in depth you go with your answers. I'm
my mind is just blown right now. So I do want to ask you before we do get into the episodes, when Pokemon first came out and your voice was on that show, did you, as an adult, actually sit down and watch any of the Pokemon episodes, or did you get kind of like taken in like to the whole phenomenon when it was first starting?
I got through a couple of episodes. It wasn't really, something that I was really into. But in the first few months, of course, I watched it. That's even before it became a hit single and they made the album. Just, was looking at the success of the TV show and it being on 3 times a day. So yeah, and I didn't know what was going on, but I got it. I got the basics.
Yeah, and I just happened to because I actually had the soundtrack when I was a kid, the To Be a Master soundtrack. I had no idea when I was looking things up that you actually did the song for Viridian City. Like you actually did that song. I was like,
yes. That was part of that was during one of the people that produced that song and co-wrote it were the people that I also co-wrote the Legomania jingle with. So all of the jingle houses that we were working with at the time all kind of got together and produced music for the album. And that was a great track. That's one of the favorites. I think people think that's one of their favorites on that record. And I still have really yet to perform that song or even reveal myself that I'm the guy from that song as well. I think I need to do another one of those videos where I kind of just, lip sync and play the original track with some Pokemon footage over it to let people know I'm the voice of that as well. It needs its own Jason Paige video.
There you go, and you heard it here. you should do that.
Yeah. It's interesting. The past. I have so many successes in the past that if I don't reveal them on my own to the public, then people won't know that it's me. I kind of did that with my Michael Jackson black and white rap. I made a video that shows that. And I should also probably do that with the Legomania jingle as well, just so that people will get an idea of that success as well. It's a great song. It's a really fun song to sing too.
Yes.
The Legomania.
And I mean, I was kind of trying to, because like I said at the beginning, your career far exceeds Pokemon, and like I said, or like Doug said, it would be a whole podcast just about you if we went down your whole career. But Michael Jackson, sure. I saw that earlier, and I saw that. Is it true that you did perform at the Madison Square Garden 30th anniversary concert show? Because I did. Sorry.
That's correct. That's the I think that was his last official United States concert.
It was.
And I was in the background group of background singers that sang throughout the whole show. We didn't just sing for him. We sang for all of the artists that performed in the first act for him, like Whitney Houston and Ray Charles and Liza Minnelli and Destiny's Child, and there was just tons of people, Luther Vandross, tons of like incredible artists, all sang songs to Michael Jackson. And we were the background group for that. And then I was also in the background group for the Jackson 5 because they did their little set in the second part of it. And then for Michael's set as well. And during Michael's set, there was no rap guest for Black and White. So they just came to the background singers and said, who can sing this? Who can do the rap to Black and White? And of course, I was right there. I'd already done that. Done a lot of rapping in my musical upbringing. Anyway, so I was ready to go. And that was fun. That was really amazing.
The emotion that you must have had at that concert, that just blows my mind. It's just, I could never imagine being there.
It was like Niagara Falls. Have you ever been to Niagara Falls? There is so much energy coming off of the Niagara Falls. Millions of tons of water pouring over that thing, crashing. It was like that, except the human version of that energy. The audience cheering and energy was like a Niagara Falls of energy pouring into Michael Jackson. it was incredible.
All right. Well, before we get into the episode, Doug, do you have anything that you want to add to this right before we get on into the Pokemon?
I mean, I did have. I mean, the question I was going to ask, he just answered. I was going to ask like what it felt like to perform at a packed Madison Square Garden, because obviously, I've seen multiple sporting events. I've seen, some wrestling shows. I've witnessed that building full for numerous events, but I've never, stood on stage at a packed Madison Square Garden. And I mean, that feeling just has to be, and this is going to sound funny saying it, almost undescribable, I would imagine.
Yeah. It really is. It really is. I remember feeling so big and so small at the same time, because that was so central to everybody's lives, this monumental experience of Michael Jackson and everybody's cumulative experience with him, and why they were so excited to see him. And yet at the same time, they were just one sort of blob of sound and scream that we were caught up in. So it was a really a neat experience.
All right. Well, if you all listen to the show on a weekly basis, which why wouldn't you? We'd like to go back in history on the U.S. release date for the episode that we're doing. And I don't even think we even announced it. This week's episode is episode 47, and it's called A Chansey Operation, or coming from Japan, Lucky's Clinical Records. And this was original. That man.
I mean. So this is going to be our last episode, right? Like, this is it.
This is it. This is the top.
We peaked. I mean,
so
this is incredible.
So this episode aired in Japan on June 4th of 1998, and here in the States it aired March 6th of 1999. And Doug, I'm going to honestly guess that you beat me this week, because mine happened in 2018. So if yours happened anytime sooner, my mouth is going to drop again. So did you beat me again this week?
Of course I did.
Of course you did. So what happened on March 6th for you, Doug?
So on March 6th, 1945, if I can just get the right page up, for goodness sakes. Gymnast George Neeson of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, receives the patent for the first modern trampoline.
Oh, really?
Yes.
The trampoline. Okay.
I was scrolling through and I said, that's unique.
That is unique, and that's different than what you normally do when it comes to dates in history. So, all right. So the trampoline was patented on this day.
Yes, and my first reaction to trampoline, outside of the iconic Simpsons scene where Homer sees a trampoline being advertised in the newspaper and says trampoline, is numerous backyard wrestling federations where guys put up ropes, garden hoses, and have matches, and I'm using the biggest quotes possible, on their trampolines, and they break their necks, and they put them on grainy DVD footage.
And put them on pay-per-view.
Yes.
Back when pay-per-view was really a big thing.
Yes.
I used to watch things like that. To be honest, I was one of those suckers that bought one of those pay-per-views. I'm just going to throw out there.
Hey, you got to support small business.
So mine actually happened in 2018. And all right, both of you get this. So in 2018, Forbes magazine named Amazon founder Jeff Bezos as the world's richest person for the first time ever, with $112 billion, with Bill Gates coming in second place.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a stupid amount of money.
It's just dumb. Just wow. I saw that and I was like, okay, so that's my thing. I'm taking it. I'm going for it. But yeah, Jeff Bezos, and he was named that. And then here, 2021, he's stepping down as CEO. And even though he's stepping down and he sold a lot of his stock, he is still the number one richest person in the world. That's just a side note that I would like to give everybody.
Well, somebody's got to do it, right? What are you supposed to do? Then if he steps down, then somebody else is going to be the richest person. You can't stop it. Someone will always be the richest person.
Exactly. So that was my moment and as I'm saying that, I am pulling up the most recent episode that we're about to go over. Are you ready, Jason, to go over an episode of Pokemon?
Wait a second. Are you ready to go over the episode of Pokemon? Because Jason Paige is on the show, and it is going on. All right, I'm ready now.
Holy, that is, whoa. I might take that and use that on future episodes, just saying.
I'm just saying, there's been times where I've been glad this isn't a visual show. And this is one, because I'd be on, if I wasn't tethered to this by headphones, I'd be on the floor.
Thank you.
I gotta tell you, I mean, this is outstanding.
So
I'm just, I just happen to have access to a piano right now, so I've been busting out the piano as a tool for communication, which is what it really is.
yes, it is.
So I'm glad you guys, you appreciate that. So go ahead.
All right. So this week's episode 47, a Chansey operation. We start this week's episode with Pikachu in a tree. And it's kind of a weird setting because as soon as we start the episode, Pikachu's in the tree, in an apple tree, and then falls out of the tree. Doug.
Yeah, I mean it's almost like, because we've mentioned before that, like, they've only got 20 minutes or whatever. Why are they wasting 5 minutes up top? It's almost like they heard that and said, we got to go now.
They really did rush it, because when Pikachu was up in that tree doing whatever we're going to find out what Pikachu was doing, but Pikachu literally faints and rolls out of the tree.
Yeah, we get the classic dazed cartoon X's
on the eyes.
Yes. And
we go straight from that to Misty finding Pikachu over to going to wake up Ash. Now, hey Jason, now by chance, did you watch this episode by chance?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I apologize. I did not watch this episode.
Oh, well, no.
We got to kick you out.
Oh, we got to kick him out now. No,
we got to.
So then actually that's actually a great thing, because as we're reviewing this, Jason, I'm gonna toss it to you, and as we're reviewing it, I'm gonna ask you basically what is your take, because this is a weird episode and it's a funny episode, and that's why I wanted you on this one, because there's some questionable things from the doctor which will come up a little bit later on, and I want to get your input on it, quite honestly.
Okay.
All right. So Misty goes over to Ash and wakes him up. Ash is taking a nap on a bench, and she's like, well, something's wrong with Pikachu. Pikachu needs some help. And Brock runs Pikachu over. Pikachu looks sick. Pikachu can't even say his name. He's just squeaking. And Ash is a butthole. 101, as we like to say on this show. Ash literally takes Pikachu, holds Pikachu upside down, and just starts shaking, like literally shaking him. And he's like, "Get it out of you, Pikachu!" And he knows something's in Pikachu, but shaking your Pokemon erratically like this, like, why did Brock even let him do this, Doug?
Well, I mean, in fairness, and I mean, we're jumping ahead, quite a bit. In fairness, a character landing on their head fixes their problem later in this episode. I'm just saying. I'm just pointing it out.
Okay.
And I feel like in episodes before this, the thing that's lodged in Pikachu's throat would have just popped out if it wasn't for plot purposes.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think it's once again, this is about Pikachu's ability to be reliant on Ash or be self-reliant. And I think at some point, the electrical charge that Pikachu has is going to force whatever thing inside of him out. And he will be self-repairing.
Oh, if you only knew, Jason. Only if you knew what happens.
I think Pokemon Ultimate, I mean, you have to interact with them, but they are also self-repairing, right?
In a way, yes.
In a way, yeah. I mean, you're not wrong.
Because
but so in this particular case, Pikachu is very important because Pikachu is fully electromagnetic. We are in an electromagnetic world. I look out the window. I got 5G towers right across the way, tons of internet signal all flying through here. So Pikachu is a very appropriate sort of example in our modern world with all the electromagnetic frequencies. Pikachu's health is dependent on interacting healthily with the electromagnetic frequencies that exist. So, just throw that into the equation.
and straight from that, Doug, Pikachu, after Ash was shaking Pikachu, Misty got mad. She literally looked at Ash and was like, "Ash, you're doing nothing but making it worse. We need to go to a Pokemon Center and get some help for your Pikachu." And then we go straight from that to the title card. And I'll let you take this next part of the scene, Doug.
So, first and foremost, I don't think Misty should be that upset because she's been with Ash for however many months. She understands that he's a very reactionary person. So she's going to be mad at him for shaking him. It's like, this is his MO. But we find out through voiceover that there's no Pokemon Center within miles.
Yes. Uh-oh.
All right, I'm giving you guys some music.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. So, yeah, there's no Pokemon Center at all within miles. So they come to an actual people's hospital, and they're banging on the door. And it's at this point that a doctor opens the door who looks like he was sleeping, and they're basically begging him to help them. And they don't flat out say that Pikachu needs help, which is probably how they should have started it. But he takes one look at Misty and goes, "I can never say no to a young woman's face."
Yeah, I don't like that at all. I mean, obviously, we've established that Misty is
She's
only
10.
10. And I don't like it because I feel like this guy is at least 30. I'm not with whatever's happening here. But yeah, in all fairness, they don't say, "Oh, please, doctor, my Pikachu is sick and there's no Pokemon Center within miles." They just say, "We need help." And what hospital is closed?
Exactly. That's what I wanted to find out. Like, they're at a closed hospital. Like, Jason, have you ever been to a hospital that ever closed in the middle of the day?
Well, people got to take breaks every now and then. And it might not be the person that you want on duty, but there's usually somebody there. They shouldn't be closing the doors completely, unless there's just like one guy and he's like, you got to go to the bathroom. Be back in 5 minutes. That's all I'll give a hospital.
But that's a whole nother discussion. Why is there only one guy working at the hospital?
Exactly.
Well, in these utopian lands, there's nobody gets sick except for these Pokemon every now and then. Hopefully.
It's true. I don't think Ash has had a cold yet.
No, he hasn't. So
anytime the doctors get involved, doctors aren't good. We need to stay away from the doctors, basically. So,
and
this episode is veering into hospital things, and now hospital protocols, and now we're seeing the ineptness of the medical industry even within Pokemon.
Yes,
crazy.
It's very crazy. So we go straight from that, and they do a funny little like fast forward image, like with a bunch of Pokemon just flying across your screen, so they don't have to explain what's going on. But then we go straight from that to Misty sitting on a doctor bed, and the doctor just looks at her. And he's like, "All right, what seems to be the problem, little lady?" And Misty's like, "I'm not the one who's sick." And that's when Ash brings over Pikachu. And this guy had enough nerve to look at Pikachu and go, "This is a people's hospital. This is not a Pokemon hospital. Go take him to Nurse Joy at your local Pokemon Center." And they were all looked at him and was like, "Well, there's not a Pokemon Center within miles. Pikachu needs your help." So Doug, go ahead and take on this next part.
Says I'm a specialist in human medicine. But yeah, and I'm obviously, us as the viewer, we're at a bit of an advantage because we already heard the voiceover say that there's no Pokemon Center within miles.
Yes.
So unfortunately, we have to get that repeated. And Ash is like, well, he might not make it if we have to go to the next Pokemon Center, and he's dead set against it. Like I say, he says, "Well, I'm a specialist in human medicine," but then he says, "Well, but I've never really been able to refuse a request. So what are we fighting for?" What was the whole point of saying, "I'm a people doctor, take him to a Pokemon Center"? Just say, "Well, I'll do it," but
the thing is, he and the creepiness of this doctor, like, because he says, I normally don't turn down pretty young ladies," and he looks right over at Misty and he gives her the good old wink, like, creepo doctor. All right.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Doctors are the number one category for suicide.
Really?
Yeah. They're the most suicided group that exists of professionals. So these guys have deep-rooted issues. So it's nice that they accurately reflect them. At first, he's kind of like doing anything for a 10-year-old except to heal the Pikachu, which they totally could, right? I mean, this is discrimination, right? This is all
discrimination at its best.
At its best, and the happiness of these kids.
It's her Pokemon, her Pikachu. That doctor would have gotten right in the door.
I know.
Yeah, right away. Right away. And plus, how did they determine? Are they using the regular PCR on this thing? How they determine the illness of the testing here? Are they fully into germ theory? These doctors? What's going on?
I have no idea. And as we get further into this episode, it's a wonder that this guy even became a doctor.
Yeah. There's.
Don't they know berries and stuff that you got to give? You got to give these organic berries to Pikachu, raspberries and blueberries and all the other organic stuff that you feed your Pokemon. Come on, it's
to keep them healthy.
Here. Yeah, everybody knows that.
So we go.
Part and parcel of Pokemon Go is feeding them berries.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he uses his what is that thing called, Doug?
Stethoscope.
He uses his stethoscope on Pikachu's stomach and goes, "There's something lodged in his throat." And he's like,
we figured that out, and shaking it didn't work, Doc.
I know. we already know that. Apparently, I'm a better doctor than you. So Ash is like, "Hang in there, Pikachu." And he's begging this doctor to do whatever he can to save Pikachu. And the doctor's like, "All right, I will do my best. So they put some electrical pressure charges on Pikachu's cheeks, and it doesn't seem like that's working. It looks like Pikachu's static electricity is weak. So they're about to give 10,000 volts. What are those things called that they put onto your chest and they basically electric charge you to like?
Yeah, I think it's a EEG. Yeah.
That would be a defibrillator.
There you go. Yes. And they're about to put that onto Pikachu's chest and basically try to pounce him back to life, which we find out doesn't really do anything either.
Well, it wakes him up to an extent, but it obviously doesn't dislodge the instrument, but it wakes Pikachu up to the point where he can at least sit up.
Yes. And it's at this point Pikachu, he tells Pikachu to open his mouth so he can look inside. He's like, oh, I see it. All right, everybody. You need to hold Pikachu, and then I'm going to put my hand in, and I will get it out. And
he's not wearing gloves.
They're so primitive, and you're crazy. It's like, you keep trusting the doctor. It gets worse and worse. Now the guy's just going to stick his hand down his throat, and that's it. That's all it is.
Apparently,
all this medical technology, years and years of study of chemistry, and all these advanced technology.
and Doug just said it best, Jason. He wasn't even wearing any gloves. He just takes his hand and just sticks it straight down Pikachu's throat. And when he puts his hand down Pikachu's throat, Pikachu lets out a huge thunderbolt, shocking all three of them, because Pikachu is not okay with this at all.
The single most important invention to the public health history that had contributed to the positive public health is washing your hands.
Yes.
Before and doctors figured this out at some point and became way, way more effective. Obviously, they still haven't figured out you got to wash your hands before you stick them down anybody's throats.
Well, this
What's
was
the
90s.
Pikachu? He's going to get diagnosed with some kind of disease after this. Even if they do get the thing out of his throat, he's going to live a life of, potentially a compromised immune system from whatever the doctors had on his hands. Who knows what this doctor's been into?
I blame this Pikachu.
This is absurd. I can't even believe that you guys are having this discussion about this episode.
I know.
This episode got through the censors. Who's in control of the scripts of these things?
Who was QA on this, really?
I blame. I'm going to sit here and blame this doctor for Ash not defeating the Pokemon League for over 20 years.
Yeah.
It's because of this moment right here.
Yeah, Pikachu was immunocompromised this whole time.
It's important to examine the narratives that are being laid out in the Pokemon episodes. But I think, the doctor doesn't really know best here. We see the doctor's kind of an idiot, and I like that. They're representing doctors and they're in their pure form. They're just, they're the authority figure, but they're really doing things blatantly to harm you right there in front of your eyes. So.
Yes.
So I've got a couple of things. One, I've got the screenshot of all screenshots right now. I'm at 4 minutes and 37 seconds into the episode.
Okay.
The apple is out of Pikachu. Pikachu looks absolutely stunned. Brock is cooked. The doctor's holding on to the apple for dear life. It's the screenshot of all time, really. And so we've established that this doctor is a human specialist.
Yes.
And his first move on a Pokemon after hitting it with the paddles was sticking its hand on its throat because it saw the obstruction.
Yes.
What is it doing to humans?
I couldn't tell you. I
don't think I want to find out.
So we go straight from that, just like you said. He takes the apple out of Pikachu's mouth. So the Pikachu literally swallowed an apple whole. How big is Pikachu's mouth? I'm just gonna throw that out there. Like, really?
This sounds like some leftover from the Bugs Bunny, Popeye, old school cartoon era, where they can do all kinds of crazy things because they're cartoons.
Yes. And me and Doug have a saying on this show. It is that even though we're reviewing this as adults, this is a kid's cartoon. And
we have to remember they have 20 minutes. It's a kid's cartoon. You have to suspend your belief. But really?
Yeah, we've ran into that a couple times where we just have to throw our hands up and go, it is a kid's show.
Yeah, well, our reality is very much the rules are being changed often. If you look around, you get certain rules, and then all of a sudden they decide, oh, that doesn't work, and they just change the rules and make things happen that I don't want to be too cryptic, but that couldn't have happened had they not changed the rules on you. Yes. And they're just basically movies. I see like that all the time. A movie will have a rule that it sets, like a superhero has to fly a certain way, and then all of a sudden he starts flying, and he can fly in ways and avoid things that are absolutely ridiculous for him to be able to avoid just for the sake of the movie. And like to stay rooted in reality.
Yes.
Gotta love those plot conveniences.
So we go from that to the doctor basically telling Ash, if you would have waited any longer, Pikachu would have had some serious respiratory complications. Well, duh.
Don't get him on the respirators. The respirators are killing everybody.
I know.
So strange you make this. We're actually reviewing this episode in the middle of a pandemic when we're having such, a back and forth with our medical authorities right now.
Yes.
A very appropriate episode. So you guys planned this out, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we'd like to take credit for it, but it honestly just kind of happened this way.
It fell into our hands.
That's funny.
So from there, he's blaming Ash. He's like, how could you give a whole apple to your Pokemon? That's so irresponsible. And Ash gets real defensive. He's like, I didn't let Pikachu do it. Pikachu did it on his own.
But in the doctor's defense, and the doctor obviously has no way of knowing this, but Ash was asleep on a bench.
Yep.
It's not like he was watching or, walking around with Pikachu, and Pikachu picked up the apple and he said, oh, Pikachu, small bites now. Ash was asleep.
Yes, he was. So straight from that moment, we go into the hallway. Our trio's about to go back onto their adventure when the hospital phone starts ringing. And this is where I'm going to call the doctor a dick for the first time. Because literally, the phone is ringing, an emergency call is coming in. The doctor looks back at the trio and is like, I'm on break. And just basically shoos off the trio. And Ash, Misty, and Brock are like, well, what if it's an emergency? So they go over to the computer, and Doug, what is the next thing that happens to this phone call?
Well, they pick it up, and first we get the immediate Brock becomes love struck because it's Nurse Joy even through a computer screen, and then we find out that there was a horrible accident, and many Pokemon have been injured, and this is a situation that needs immediate attention. Now, I had to kind of scratch my head a little bit because Nurse Joy says there's been this accident, and then she's got footage of the accident.
Yeah.
Well, also, aren't they just supposed to say this is human hospital? We don't deal with Pokemon, so sorry, we don't care what happened with your Pokemon.
Yeah.
Now they're all of a sudden concerned about the Pokemon.
Was the doctor
See, the
not
protocols of the hospital, back and forth, just like our current hospitals. Really good job with the writers on this.
I know, for real. I had some feelings in this episode when I was watching it.
Doctor might have had a point.
Keeps messing it up. They keep messing it up.
So yes, Doug. She had footage of the accident. Then we go straight from some of the footage of the accident to being live at the accident, and it looks like Team Rocket is what caused the accident, and specifically James of Team Rocket. Apparently, he wasn't watching the road. Jesse's yelling at him. Meowth, he lost his charm off the top of his head, so he's all mad. And then you just see an array of Pokemon that is all around the roadway, and they look back at the doctor and they said, well, there's no Pokemon Center, or the Pokemon Center is currently full, so you need to take in some of these Pokemon to help them. And
the doctor originally doesn't want to do this because he's like, oh, this is a people hospital. But he sees Nurse Joy, and of course his line of the episode is he can't turn down a pretty lady. He sits there and tells Nurse Joy that he will gladly help her with the Pokemon situation. But he also then says, well, how about after we're done with all this, me and you go out for some coffee?
Pizza.
Or yeah, for some pizza. Just hitting on Nurse Joy when all these Pokemon are potentially dying all around it.
Wow.
I mean, he is a human specialist after all.
Specializing in what?
And there's a reason that her name is Nurse Joy as well.
It gives joy to everybody.
Boy.
That's interesting, Nurse Joy, of course.
So
I know that this is a kind of a crazy story here, you guys. I mean, this could be extrapolated into a real human life drama. I think this may be the script for Detective Pikachu #2.
It probably should be.
I was watching this episode, and I got some real like ER vibes to this episode. Like it's, I mean, ER.
Yeah, I used to
Anatomy.
love to watch. I used to watch Ben Casey and Quincy. I used to love those medical shows, which is really funny because now Pokemon's like, oh, everybody loves the medical shows. Let's just have a medical show.
And they've got a suave doctor that's cavalier and doesn't seem to care. But then, when the chips are down, he rolls up his sleeves and says, well, I am the only one in this hospital. You guys are going to need to grab these coats and help me.
Yes. So
yeah, how do you guys feel about these images that you got as kids when you were watching these shows? I mean, we're looking at them now in a more critical way, but do you remember anything from your childhood? Are you like going, oh, wow, when I remember this one when I first saw it, and it's like triggering these ideas?
when I was watching this back earlier, I remembered watching this as a child. But what's funny about the kid's mind, which is why I kind of wanted to do this as adults, is you look over and you look past so many things as a child. Like watching this, as adults, we're like, okay, he's going to ask these two 10-year-olds and one teenager to help him save all of these Pokemon. And he's hitting on any woman or any girl that has two legs. But as a child,
I don't even think he would turn down a peg leg if it gets.
I don't think so either. But watching this as a child, I just looked past it. I was like, oh, cool. Ash, Misty, and Brock are gonna save some Pokemon. This is kind of just a one-off episode. It has nothing to really do with the series. Honestly, I was probably more mad than happy that we're not getting a gym battle. Like the story's not really progressing that much. This was just one of those random episodes that they call now filler episodes that they have in the series.
Wow, very interesting, very interesting. Because people experience Pokemon in so many different ways, and this is one of the primary ways through these stories that are told. And these stories have little narratives that are weaving their way through. And it's very important to kind of note what they are. Obviously, the narrative of the song has its own embedded idea of self-empowerment and teaching each other and, friendship and courage and all these great things. So it's nice to see how they manifest themselves in each episode. And if it is manifesting itself. And in this one, I'm not sure I'm getting any of that yet.
So... all right. So in the episode, we start hearing some sirens, and the first Pokemon that we see come in are two Chanseys with a Cubone on a stretcher, and Cubone is just crying. And he's asking Chansey what the condition of Cubone is. And it looks like they need to do an external scan in one of the rooms for Cubone. And then we go straight from that to Ash being in the room.
So they gotta actually test out some new medical equipment on him, basically.
Yes. Basically, yes.
Yeah.
Experimental treatments.
So we go straight from that to the room where Cubone is just throwing a fit. Cubone is is out of control, just crying, and this is Ash being this is just Ash not thinking, but I'm going to call it Ash being a jerk number 2 of this episode. Doug, you want to tell our audience what he does to try to tame this Cubone?
Well, because obviously Cubone is freaking out because, we could just take a glance and we could see that there's some cracks along the, the outer skull of Cubone. And, so Ash is like, well, he needs to calm down clearly. So he calls out Bulbasaur and he has him do Vine Whip to hold him down. And the doctor, who all of a sudden has a conscience, says, well, you need to be gentler. And he's like, well, sorry, but he is under control. So, and then, Misty picks him up, and of course the healing female touch. And, what do they say?
They come out and they look at a scan from Cubone, and he's like, Cubone has.
How did they get that? How did they get that scan?
They're fast forwarding through the episodes. They're just going through. But yeah, they brought the scan over for Cubone, and a wonder of how they got Cubone to even be still for that photo. But right. But they said, okay, so he has a thick skull. His skull's cracked. So how are we gonna fix Cubone's skull? Let's go get some super glue and apply a bandage, and he would just need to rest. What?
Well, slapdash medicine.
Well, there you go. Once again, they go primitive.
And it's
Misty. Go primitive. Some tape. Some Scotch tape, maybe.
I know.
Well, when you get stitches, it's just, they're just, sewing it up. With some wire. And putting a little piece of tape over it, which is a Band-Aid. So there you go.
There you go. Now get out of our hospital.
Get out. That'll be $10,000.
Yes.
Right. Insurance.
So we go from that, and Misty picks up Cubone, and it's Misty's magical touch that makes Cubone stop crying, of course. And Cubone's all happy now. And we go straight from that to the next Pokemon, which is Team Rocket's Arbok and a cracked tooth Raticate. And they're both looking at each other, looking like they're wanting to fight each other, but they can't because they're both injured, because Arbok is twisted into a knot, Raticate's teeth are fully broken, and we basically have the doctor come over, and he sees Jessie, and of course, the line of the episode, he cannot turn down a pretty girl, a pretty lady, and he asked Jessie on a date for some pizza, even though he just asked out Nurse Joy. This guy is just trying to play the field.
He's got a Pizza Hut coupon, and he's trying to use it. Arbok and Raticate are having a bit of a stare down, and the doctor comes up and he's like, well, that Raticate couldn't fight you even if it wanted to. Its teeth are cracked. And Chansey picks him up and he goes, just glue his teeth back in with some super glue. That'll fix it. And it's like, this guy...
Super glue fixes everything.
At least he's being efficient,
Well, he looked in the junk drawer.
It fixed everybody up with the glues.
But
then
Arbok
randomly Arbok went from staring down the Raticate to being passed out in the span of like 5 seconds. And Jessie goes, well, we can talk over the pepperoni later. First, would you be able to help my Arbok? And he's like, well, we got to take a look here. And
all of the poison in Arbok's body from it being tied up is circulating to its head and made him pass out.
Which is, fair. I mean, that's, kind of, let's not, make dinner plans here. Let's kind of work on the sick and injured Pokemon here.
Yes. So
at least until we run out of super glue, because we got super glue to fix them all.
Then we're in trouble. Once we run out of super glue, boy.
And
they're getting high off of that super glue too at the same time.
Oh, with what happens in this episode, I think you might be right. Because we go straight from that to they fast forward again, and they're back in the room where Ash, Misty, and Brock are, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, the twerps are MDs," and Ash is like, "Don't trust them, Doctor. These two are from Team Rocket." And the doctor basically has to talk everyone down and saying that the hospital is a mutual place. And they don't see bad guys or good guys. They're here to help out the Pokemon. And it's this moment right here that he gives Arbok a shot, which puts Arbok to sleep so he can untie Arbok's tail. And Ash is confused because he's like, why would you help Team Rocket? And I guess I kind of spoke a little far already.
You got a little bit ahead of your skis because you basically gave your answer before you asked the question.
Yep.
The thought process is there.
Yes. So all right.
But then they cut back because they cut to a like there's a Weeping Bell with a Voltorb and a hurt Poliwhirl. But then they cut back to Arbok and the knot's back in his tail. Yeah,
they didn't really think that through, did they?
No, I mean they didn't plan on people, walking around pausing episodes 25 years later.
So, and then we go over to Meowth with Chansey, where Meowth is trying to find his coin, and Chansey's funny. Chansey brings everything but the coin. She brings a chessboard. She brings Officer Jenny's police station. What was the first thing that she put on top of? Meowth says she brings.
Well, because Meowth says, "Well, I'll pay any price to help you find my charm," and she brings a bowl of rice.
And he gets so smitten, or so mad. He's like, "I didn't say rice. I said price."
And then,
there's comedy.
She brings a Venonat over, and then he's getting frustrated. So Chansey just straight out of airplane just smacks him around
and knocks him out
and puts a Band-Aid on his head.
Yep.
Now, knowing what we know now, I mean, obviously with the benefit of hindsight, you can see that there's the wound on Meowth's head is an indent.
Yes.
Like it's not like an exit wound. So I mean, what happens towards the end of the episode makes sense. Obviously, like I say, we have the benefit of hindsight. People watching this fresh don't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because that kind of bothered me on my first viewing, and then obviously subsequent rewatches. Oh well, it makes complete sense.
So we go straight from that, and we're going to be fast forward. It's going to seem like we're fast forwarding a lot, but that's literally the pace of the episode. So we go back into the medical room with Brock and a pincer, and Pincer's pincher is broken off. So they put super glue on it and put the pincher back on, and everything's fixed with pincher now. And then we go straight from that to the scene with Misty and Ash with the Weeping Bell and the Voltorb, and Ash, like a dummy number 3, tries just taking Voltorb straight out of Weeping Bell's mouth, and he gets told, "No, you can't do that. Voltorb self-destructs. You're going to need to be a little bit easier with these Pokemon." And that's the second time that he's had to tell Ash that in this episode.
Well, to be fair,
I'm sorry. That was Jesse. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this was Jesse and Misty were working on this. The doctor was over with a looks like an Ivysaur. But yeah, but
they're
Jesse
running out of super glue. That's why.
Yes, they are.
Jesse should know about.
Gotta move
Voltorbs.
forward.
Wasn't it a couple episodes ago they had a balloon basket full of Voltorbs that just exploded? I mean,
yes.
She should know all about them.
Yeah, you can't. You have to be easy with them. But Chansey comes over and starts to take Voltorb out, and she gets Voltorb out of Weeping Bell's mouth. Weeping Bell looks relieved and looks like he's about to go to sleep now. And we go straight from that to another fast forward, and we have a Doug trio that's head is all twisted together. And this is kind of where the episode gets a little funny.
Well, because these are horrific injuries.
Yes.
This is like an episode of Grey's Anatomy in fast forward. I mean, this is awful. I mean,
this was someone in the writer's room looking over and is like, what would Pokemon look like if they were completely just hurt? Like, let's try to hurt these Pokemon for an episode. And he found the best Pokemon to put into this scenario, and he did it.
And then we don't get Dexter in this episode, but we basically get an appearance by Dexter because the doctor reads off a sheet talking about what Do Trio's 3 heads represent, and then Ash, has kind of a groaner of a line say, "Well, they all look angry to me,"
and
this whole episode is like basically like fear porn. This is like horror porn. It's just about like the destruction of as many Pokemon as possible.
Yes.
To break them up, to knock them down, and to super glue them back together again is like, the whole thing.
This is
crazy.
If Pokemon did Saw.
Right.
So
this is like Pokemon Massacre episode.
Yes, it is. You see, and that's why I wanted you on this one, because this is such a different episode. This is not your stereotypical Pokemon episode.
It's a Pokemon medical massacre episode. Well, how did they all get messed up? I know that they're in the wrong hospital now.
There was a big like truck accident on the freeway, and there was just
a
massive pileup of Pokemon that were being rushed back and forth.
Well, in all fairness, the hospital is probably best for those types of emergencies. That's like what they do. The diseases is not really good. They just stick their hand down your throat. But for these hospital type, they can put people's broken bones back together, and I think it's kind of appropriate. They'd be super gluing Pokemon together. That's a kind of a good thing. I like that sort of model, the medical model. Glue us back together when we get crashed on the highway. That's what we need you for.
That is exactly what we need them for. And I have a little, I mean, it's not really a joke, but so we know that the Do Trio have 3 heads, and each head represents a different emotion. So the doctor literally tells Chansey, he's like, get the anesthetic. We need to basically put Do Trio under so we can untangle its neck. And I'm going to guess that it was the angry Do Trio head that goes and just bites or tries to attempt to bite the doctor. The doctor flings the needle up into the air. It falls and pops him in the shoulder. And he's like, that's not good. And then that's basically almost the last of the doctor that we see for the majority of the episode. There's not much left, but that shot puts the doctor to sleep. He's like, I'm going nighty-night.
He said, I'm going to be out for probably about 6 hours. And he just has enough wherewithal to lay down. And
yeah, that's the main danger of these injections is like, it's not that what it's going to do to your body, like in the long term, it's if you're operating heavy machinery and then you veer off the road and kill people. Matter of fact, the accident in the beginning might have been somebody that just got their recommended vaccination. Really bad on the drive back and destroyed all these Pokemon. So the whole thing might have been generated by one of these injections. Who knows?
Yes. So it's at this point where the doctor lays down to go to sleep. So Doug, I'm going to hand this part over to you with Ash taking on the big challenge of the day.
So obviously, thankfully they don't forget about the Tangled Do Trio, and is that, well, the doctor obviously had the right idea to knock him out, and he said, well, I'm going to be a Pokemon master, so I should be able to attack this. So he sends out Squirtle for water gun. All that does is make him frustrated and wet, and then he sends out Pikachu afterwards to do Thunderbolt and knocks him clean out. And then he goes to capture him because,
That's Ash.
Pokemon trainer instincts kick in, and Brock says, "You can't catch it. That's not your." And then, oh, right. And then, so okay, now he's out. Now we got to figure out how to untangle him.
And then we go straight over to Team Rocket, who's getting ready to scheme things up.
Yeah, and we don't really get an explanation of how they untangled the Dotrio. We just get a montage of them helping, a Sandshrew and a Hitmonlee and a Parasect and a.
So
we get Ash's Pokemon are walking the halls, being of assistance, and at this point, we get Team Rocket scheming in the hallway.
So we go straight from Team Rocket scheming in the hallway, and we get another fast. They keep they start to do their motto, and from them doing their motto, Meowth is like, "I want my charm" in the middle of it, and then we find them completely knocked out on the ground, and Ash, Misty, and Brock walk over and they're like, "Quit it, we need help around here." And Jessie is just blunt. She's like, "We're not going to help you anymore. All these Pokemon are going to be ours. We're going to take these Pokemon and we're going to leave out of here and have a good day, guys." So
and they're like, "How can you forget about the fact that the doctor helped your Pokemon, and don't you have any decency?" And James says, "Well, we're Team Rotten, so not really."
So and it seems like Team Rocket just always conveniently has the proper tools when it comes to any of this, but they have 3 stretchers that have extendable arms, which ended up grabbing our trio and basically holding them down.
Right, and so they're all held. Pikachu's in a set of hands, and Ash again is like, "Don't you have a heart? There's Pokemon that need to be treated." And then James just starts wielding a daggum needle, and I don't know what he was going to do to Ash, but Chansey steps in the way to act as a shield.
And the Pokemon don't want to attack her.
Yeah, Jessie says, "Well, we'll fix that," and sends Arbok, and Arbok takes a step back and flat out shakes his head, and then
the doctor comes back into the scene.
Right, because James tries it with Weezing, and Weezing wants no part either, and then the doctor says, "Well, these Pokemon remember that Chansey was assisting them,
so they don't want to hurt her."
Right, which is a good lesson for kids. I mean, and this kind of makes me think that they sat in this hospital for 6 hours because the doctor says, "Well, I'm going to be out for 6 hours."
Yeah, and this episode just takes a big fast forward at this point because Jessie just ends up getting mad. She throws some type of poison or medicine at the doctor. The doctor has what looks like a knife in his hand, and he just cuts it right in half. And then he opens his jacket and goes, "I have all the ammunition I need." Basically scares off Team Rocket in this episode. And Team Rocket, instead of blasting off, just goes and runs straight through a wall.
Yeah, I mean, they get because they're trying to outrun the stretchers, and apparently the stretchers are
they have a mind of their own.
They have a mind of their own. I don't want to know what that wall was made out of because Team Rocket just jumped right through it, basically. And James is basically like, "Well, it's not a total loss. I was able to get this Pokemon." And once again, it's a Voltorb, and it explodes. And they go blasting into the air. And then we have the thrilling conclusion to Meowth's saga, because we do find out that
Meowth grows his charm.
Well, it was
embedded in his head.
That's the word, exactly. Embedded, and the pressure of landing flush on his head knocked him back out.
So, and then we go straight from that back to the doctor. They're thanking the doctor for helping them. And the trio is on their way to their next adventure, which we will find out next week what's going on. But this was a very weird episode. That was how they ended this episode. Like, this episode was ER, an hour-long ER episode, just meshed into like 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't find out how they untied the Doe trio. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say we never see this doctor again. And it's frustrating because as high as the stakes were in this episode, right, nothing is going to be addressed on the next episode. It's just we're not going to talk about our heroes being makeshift doctors and saving lives.
No, because we go straight from this to an episode called Holy Matrimony. So
yeah, so
it sounds like they are absolutely preaching to children in a way that is definitely questionable here.
Yes,
this sounds like a little bit of a nightmare for a 5-year-old to have to follow that. How old were you when you were listening to that?
Let's see. At this age, I was 8 going on 9 when this episode was released.
Wow, that's pretty young.
Yes.
And there's no possible way to have understood all of the messaging in there at that point. Did you have your parents watch it with you?
My parents could not stand Pokemon as much as I liked it. Even though they got me everything for Pokemon, they could not stand watching the show.
But did they monitor it? Like, did they watch it and say, okay, this is content that, it's okay to put you in front of?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I was growing up, I was huge into Power Rangers. So I don't think anything could get any worse than grown teenagers beating up adults on a weekly Friday night. So I'm sure they looked at Pokemon and was like, all right, it's just a cartoon. It comes on kids WB. All right, you can watch it.
Yeah, how bad can it be, honestly?
So they just trusted that this messaging was okay without actually really investigating it and watching it.
Yeah, that's the 90s for you.
And did the Power Rangers ever get into these medical sort of issues with doctors and different, ER-based plot lines?
Oddly, no. My son was into it for a little bit, so I kind of got back into Power Rangers with him. He watches a little bit of Pokemon now, but he's more into other stuff. But watching Power Rangers back when I bought the DVD set for him, no, I mean, there was a lot of subliminal messages in Power Rangers and things you think about now as adults, but no, it was. I like to chum it up to it was the 90s, and people didn't really look too much into, like, you could have so many things on TV back in the 90s that people, when they watch TV shows now, if it aired today, there would be rallies. So
of course, it's really
a different time.
It's really very, very different now. Absolutely, but just interesting because you have to sit there with your kids at first. The first time through and go, if that happened to be the episode that you just landed on, imagine that. Like, all right, let's check out this Pokemon thing for our kids. And there you are with the doctor and all that stuff. You're like, what is going on?
What is this? So,
and then you discuss it with your kids afterwards, which is kind of what we're doing now, except as adults.
Yes. So, all right. Well, that was the episode. And Jason, I'd like to fully thank you again for taking an hour out of your day to come on and be a part of our show. I really appreciate it. I'm sure Doug really appreciates it too as well.
Yeah,
you're very welcome.
This was fantastic. I mean, I feel like we got a little bit of an impromptu concert. I mean, you just happened to be sitting at a piano. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, to get to hear the theme song, like, coming out live. I mean, like I say, I got goosebumps.
I have to ask real quick. Are you still by your piano?
I am not actually.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Never mind. So, all right, Doug. Sorry, I kind of jumped over you.
No, I mean this is great. Like I say, like Chris said, thanks for sticking with us for about an hour, kind of dealing with our
absolutely. It's great to add value to the ecosystem, and like I said, it's guys like you that are responsible for making this skyscraper so big. And all of the adventure and different things that you can find in it is because of all the stuff that you're creating. I just discovered the card collecting community in July. I didn't even realize how robust that was with the Facebook groups and all the people investing in these cards. So
yeah, the card business is crazy.
Yeah, it's taking
crazy.
off again.
I've been autographing cards on my web shop, and now I'm starting to go to actual brick and mortar card stores around where these communities build, where like people, they actually go and trade in the real world, not just on Facebook groups, but so it's really an interesting journey, and you guys are kind of part of that whole thing.
Yeah, and
as you're making your own stuff and putting it out there. So thank you for doing that. And if anybody's interested, they can go to my web shop or catch me at like Collecticon. I'll be at Collecticon next month.
Okay.
In Texas, and then a couple other interesting events that are happening. Somebody sold that $450,000 box, a vintage box, and to somebody in Germany, and I'm probably going to be present when they open it.
Oh, wow.
Theme song performance, and maybe even get to sign a couple cards from that box, which would be really cool. But, all these people creating these events, and that's what you guys are, so keep it up.
Well, thank you. And what is that website for our audience that they can find all of yours?
Yeah, jasonpaige.com, PAIGE.com, and /shop, SHOP, or just, the landing page. There's some my OG vintage cards right on the front that I've been signing a lot of lately. When I started it, I didn't even realize there was this thing called grading these cards, and now people are buying these cards, they're getting them autographed from me, and then they're sending them in, grading them, and starting to see them come back from PSA and CGC and all these grading companies. It's really neat to see. So
awesome.
Check it out.
All right.
That's awesome. Well, all right, everybody. I don't think the show can get any better than this as of right now, but thank you again, Jason. And Doug, go ahead and give your goodbye, Doug.
Goodbye, Doug.
And this is Wrestling Chris G telling all of you don't want to miss next week's episode because it's a great one. Holy Matrimony, episode 48. Have a good night, everyone.
Peace out.